Use your powers for evil, kill.
Your evil is mine.
Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of Next Stop Everywhere, podcast all about Doctor Who. This is a recording of an interview I did with Dan Starkey, our man Strax, at Comicpalooza 2015. It was recorded live as we had a panel in front of the pretty good crowd of people. I asked some questions, and then we take questions from the audience. I tried to repeat the questions, so you should be able to hear them. Thank you in advance for understanding if the lack of phone, quality of the recording is not up to our normal standards, but I thought you might enjoy hearing Dan tell a few stories. Thank you as always for listening to Next Stop Everywhere. Can be reached at Next Stop Everywhere SMG on Twitter, and I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter. And Charles and I will be back soon with more recordings of Doctor Who discussions. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the program.
For the podcast.
Right,
I'll put it
okay,
up.
for posterity.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Try and be articulate then.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yes.
okay. You know, trust me.
Yes.
You know, we're pretty laid
Okay.
back.
Great.
So, yes. All right. I think we're going to get started.
Okay.
Okay? Are we ready?
Yeah.
They didn't bring you water?
No,
Did you need,
it's
do you
fine,
need some?
it's okay.
Okay.
No.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Freestyle.
Texas bourbon, maybe.
Ooh. Now you're talking.
Yes,
Mint
I did.
juleps.
I went yesterday to the Yellow Rose Distillery, did a quick tour, and it was a lot of fun. So they do a whiskey and a double bourbon and their vodka. So it was fun. Yes.
Quite diverting.
Yes, it was. Very
Yes.
nice. This is the Dan Starkey Q&A, one of two.
Hello. Thank you.
We are thrilled that our man Strax is here. We're gonna, like I said, I'm gonna start with a few questions, then we're gonna ask you guys to it's a smaller room. We should be able to just raise hands, but we can get in line. We'll play with it as we go. I am Jesse Jackson, and I do Next Stop Everywhere, a Doctor Who podcast. I am a fairly new Whovian. Discovered it after the return. Matt Smith was the first doctor I had on a new experience, and then Peter's doctor was the first time I had where I cup and balls. We could do a
Yes.
magic trick.
Glass ball.
Or the ding. So I'm going to start out, Dan.
Choose wisely.
Yes.
One way lies death. There we go. Yes.
Yes. So I grew up loving comic
Hemlock.
books and
Yes.
Star Trek.
Okay.
I was a child of the 60s and 70s, so Star Trek was on, things. So what did you grow up liking?
I was a massive Doctor Who fan when I was a kid.
You were?
Yes. Yeah, so I was a child of the 80s. So one of the first things which I remember on television was Tom Baker turning into Peter Davison.
Okay.
And then they... Yay! And then, just rather uniquely in Britain, they didn't really repeat Doctor Who. Even though they showed it, the BBC didn't really think that sort of people wanted to watch repeats. But they made an exception because Tom Baker had been the Doctor for so long, a whole generation of children didn't realise there would be another Doctor apart from him. So they did a repeat season of all the previous Doctor's adventures before Peter Davison's first series. And I saw that when I must have been about 4 or 5, and that absolutely hooked me. The idea that you could have this character who was different people in different times, and seeing An Unearthly Child, the very first episode, black and white TV, it just was like nothing else. So that kind of absolutely hooked me, and it stopped being broadcast when I was 12, the original run, and that was when I started secondary school. So it was kind of like a bookend to my childhood in that way. So I absorbed it very, very strongly through that. But I liked other things as well. But yeah, Doctor Who was kind of the thing which I would go on about over and over and over again to anyone who would listen.
So I've read that Davison was your doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So why?
Well, just simply because he was the first proper Doctor's run that I saw, and it was kind of I must have been about sort of 5, 6 years old, so it was kind of real. it was like a kind of documentary that I was watching. So it was. Yeah, and it was just very engaging. But I mean, I loved all the 80s Doctors as well. But by the time Sylvester McCoy came along, I was a bit of an expert. I was a bit of a sort of connoisseur of Doctor Who.
Yes.
So I'd read all the books and that sort of thing. So I could see things. I see what you're doing there. That's very clever. So yeah, yeah, all the 80s Doctors I sort of.
So have you gotten to meet Peter?
Yes, I've worked with him on Big Finish Audio several times. And yes, conventions and all that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to quiet the fanboy, the preteen Dan, and just
my internal 8-year-old is very, very well sated. So like, being a Sontaran and so like being so things. Yeah, I can so like do it was like when I went to audition for Doctor Who the first time. It was the whole thing of turning up and actually first of all doing quite a straight reading to show I am a proper actor.
Yeah.
And I can do acting with words. And then so I did it sort of straight one. Okay, that's very interesting. That's fine. Could you do it a bit more alien? And then I thought, right, how far can I push this? And so then this voice came out. And luckily they didn't think it was too over the top, and so they got me the job. So it's always that thing of measuring the enthusiasm, the excitement that you have sort of bubbling away, and then also actually sort of showing that I am that I'm actually an actor as well. So it's kind of not someone who's on a competition. So.
I was going to ask you, what led you to acting? How did you decide that was your calling?
It's weird. I just started doing plays at school, first of all at primary school and then secondary school, and I found out that I was quite good at it.
Okay.
When I was little, when I was a child, I wanted to be a scientist because the doctor was like a scientist. So I thought I would do that, and then I started doing science in secondary school, and I found it a bit dry.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, and then I started doing school plays, and yeah, it just kind of crept up on me really. And I did bits of acting at university as well. But then it was a little break in between university and actually sort of going to drama school properly when I was doing lots of bits of stuff on the fringe in London and so like getting to a certain level and thinking I can't really progress unless I have a proper, decent professional training. And so, but then I sort of made that decision, and then that sort of coincided with when it was announced that Doctor Who was coming back, so it felt like a harbinger of fate. That I was sort of coming back to to do it. But I never would have expected that I would have been in it when I sort of made that decision to actually go into it professionally. So.
Yeah, the 8-year-old boy, right, would never have imagined.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, was the Sontarans one of your favorite aliens, or?
Oh, definitely. They're certainly they were part of the big four, as I think. The Dalek, Cybermen, Sontarans, and Ice Warriors. Those are like the classic series big baddies. That sort of like a light. And so I think it was published in Doctor Who magazine a couple of years ago. But I was at my mum and dad's house, and I found a box in the attic with some of my old drawings in, and I found a drawing of a Sontaran I did when I was 8 years old.
Oh,
and
fun.
it was kind of and now I play him. So that's a sort of that's a sort of a victory of sorts. So there we go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Nice.
I drew lots of other things when I was 8 years old as well, not just Sontarans, but
okay.
Yeah. I'm not Asterix yet or Tintin, so it's kind of
okay. I was curious. I was going to ask you a couple questions on. We did just get a new doctor.
Yes.
So, when you're preparing for this role, do you think Strax understood regeneration? What do you think his feelings were about this new doctor, if that's not a dumb question to ask?
Well, it's great, actually. Originally, in the original sort of cut of the very first scene where Peter Capaldi's doctor comes out the TARDIS, they cut it on the line that that Madame Vastra had of "Here we go again," which is a quotation which the Brigadier says when sort of like
exactly
from Planet of the Spiders. But in the original version of the script, Strax has the last line, and it was, "Why is he turned into a woman?" But they chopped that just because they thought that might sort of start off with too much of a big laugh, and that's probably not the introduction you want into this whole new chapter of this sort of programme. So it was probably astute of them to actually to do that. But I think Strax is probably aware of the concept, but thinks it's some kind of strange, sort of Gallifreyan quackery or something. So he's. I think he's aware of it without. I think as with lots of things, Strax it goes slightly over his head, which is not. A lot of things go over his head. Yeah.
Do you try not to think about, how the sausage is made? I mean, why do you think people have embraced this character so much?
I think he's just very well written. He's a great comic foil. I mean, if the rest of the episode is quite grim, like Deep Breath has got some really quite dark sort of ideas in it and everything.
Yeah.
But having Strax leaven that slightly with humour is always good. And I think it's interesting how he's used as well, because quite typically, the way I would sort of describe it is that Strax is very economically written, so that if you have the scenes with the Paternoster gang, Neve, who plays Madame Vastra, will have reams and reams of difficult exposition to learn. So she go, here is the plot, let's solve this problem, that sort of thing. And then I will have a joke at the end, which lasts one line, and then everyone remembers that. So, which is great, but it's also double-edged, because it means that I know that's good comic writing, because Stephen Moffat can turn a very good line.
Yeah.
So it's my job to make that land as best I can. So
Right.
even if I've only got 5 lines a scene, they're probably going to be good ones. So, yeah, it's about that kind of impact. But
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, I suppose you might not be aware of, but in the UK, Stephen Moffat wrote loads of sitcoms before he sort of took over, before he started writing for Doctor Who. So he's got that very good comic sensibility that he can sort of like construct a very good joke with a setup and a punchline, that sort of thing. So you're in very safe hands in that way. So, and I think he's got a good instinct for actually sort of how not to do overkill with it. Because I think if Strax was in every single scene doing pratfalls and whatever, you get sort of quite bored of it very soon. But I think he's quite sort of quite usefully deployed in the
I think it's like, seasoning. It's just the right amount of, either sugar or spice, depending on your choice, that he really does seem to do. And he is beloved. And I know that if the fans had the way, they would love a spin-off, series or a mini-series, because you three together are just amazing.
Yeah, it's. Thank you very much. It's very kind. No, it's great. We all get on really well together as people as well. So hopefully that sort of translates onto the screen. I mean, because getting into the back of a taxi at 4:30 in the morning with Neve to go and get glued into prosthetics, that's quite a bonding experience. So it's like, luckily, we sort of, we sort of get on and we sort of like support each other, because it can be a very long day and quite tiring. But we always have fun stuff to do as well. So that's kind of.
Do you mock the actress who plays Jenny a little bit? Like, oh yeah, great.
Yes,
she shows up like 2 hours later.
Yeah. Well, she's usually. There was one time when we were filming the Crimson Horror, and Katrin was about to sort of like start. I'm like, oh, this corset's really killing me. And we were going, really? Okay.
Really,
nice.
You want to go there?
And they said, all right, I'll shut up. So it's fine. But it's it's all the nature of it, It's,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, from you as a fan, what do you see the difference between Matt and Peter's performances of the Doctor? Since you are an expert now, and you say, I see what you're doing there. As a fan, what do you?
Well, it's interesting. It was nice after David, who was very kind of like moral and alpha male, and this will not happen. This ends now. Having Matt, who was a lot more sort of buttery and a more sort of ambivalent Doctor, having more of that kind of nutty professor kind of quality to it. I really liked how he drew that, and also Matt was extremely good about being an old man in a young man's body. I think he played that extremely well.
Yes, I agree with that.
And so Peter is just another riff entirely, or he's harking back to sort of like more like a Tom Baker or a John Pertwee, slightly more authoritarian figure in some ways.
Yes.
And so the first time actually sort of being there on set on Peter's first day, the scene, because that first scene which you see in Deep Breath is the first scene that we shot of that episode. So they sort of shot it more or less in chronological order, especially for Peter, just to give him an idea of actually sort of getting into the role a lot more. Whereas I think with Matt's first episode, the first one they filmed was Victory of the Daleks, and then I think they filmed The 11th Hour a couple of ones down the line, just to give him more of a run-up to actually know who the character was that he was turning into. Whereas Peter, it was more of a case of him finding it along the way. But when he opened the door of the TARDIS and sort of came out sort of spitting and frothing, there were lots of difference of multiple takes that he did. And one time it was kind of like, oh, God, that's a bit of Tom Baker. Or so something, oh, that's a bit like John Pertwee. But then I just realised, no, he's being the Doctor. And that's kind of, it's quite an intangible but very distinct sort of quality and flavour that he was giving to it. But the thing is that he grew up with the series as well, and he's sort of got it in his bones too. So it's been interesting seeing how he can riff around what sort of thing the Doctor gives you and what the character can offer.
Yeah, I think he's been a great, and I guess Neil Gaiman talked about that. It's part of the process of you go, oh my goodness, that guy will never be the Doctor or that gal, and then well maybe, and then oh how was I so foolish? It's the perfect Doctor. Yeah. So
well, I suppose I think also in Deep Breath as well, there's that little bit where sort of like the 11th Doctor sends a telephone call to Clara, and then it's so jarring to suddenly see Matt's face there.
Yeah.
When you've had this whole episode sort of, because you tell them, oh, that is the past now. This is the Doctor here. So it's kind of, and that's something which is quite unique to the programme, that it has these distinct sort of chapters and the lead actor changes, but there's that it's a intractable quality about the Doctor that remains. The core of the character remains the same, but the shell is different.
Okay. A couple more questions, so you guys get ready with yours. As an actor, what do you want to do as Strax that you haven't got to do?
Oh gosh, I think it'd be interesting if Strax met some unreconstructed Sontarans.
Yeah.
I think if Strax had to make some kind of moral choice as to whether or not to side with the Paternosters or to with his own people or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that would be an interesting one to explore. But yeah, I think that's
so. And we have a new Big Finish coming out.
Yes,
soon.
that's right.
You want to tell us a little about that?
In September, there's a Big Finish audio that I've co-written along with John Dorney, who writes a lot of them, called Terror of the Sontarans. And I went for the full Terrence Dicks for the title. And I'm playing various Sontarans in that, and also written half the script, and it should be fun. So they've just released the cover of it. So
I saw that, and it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's the Seventh Doctor and Mel. So it's season 24, which is quite a specific flavour of classic Doctor Who, quite an interesting period. So it's interesting to marrying that with kind of like a Sontaran episode too. So yeah.
So how did you start getting involved with Big Finish? Because I know for the longest time that was keeping the Doctor Who torch alive.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, what it was, the first time they did the Doctor Who prom, which is a big sort of like classical music thing, where they did it in the Royal Albert Hall, which is a big concert hall in London. And I did the very first one of those in 2008. And I was just playing a Sontaran, so I was sort of like strutting about and sort of trying not to fall down the steps, because I can't really see very well in the outfit. But Nick Briggs was there, who plays the Daleks, and also Barnaby Edwards, who's one of the Dalek operators, and they both direct and run Big Finish, respectively.
Right.
And I bounded up to them, actually dressed as a Sontaran, and went, "Hello, I'd like to do a Big Finish audio. I've done lots of radio drama." And they went, "Oh, right, okay." So it was probably quite a position of strength to actually introduce myself as. But yeah, having offered my services, they got me in to do one. They went, "Oh, you can do lots of voices, can't you?" Yes. And so then, with radio drama, if you can do lots of different voices and you have a degree of versatility, then it's quite useful. So I've plugged in the gaps in lots of different.
It is. Yeah. It's kind of that Swiss Army knife that you can help and make the story, especially someone who can deliver the emotional beats. I'm a fairly new Big Finish audio. In fact, we're listening to some and we're reviewing them in the podcast, and they're a lot of fun. They really are. It's a different way of experiencing the Doctor.
Yeah.
So
and there's lots of like fun combinations that you get up. So especially just when you got the Fifth Doctor teaming up with Jamie or something. So you have all these amazing kind of like the Venn diagram of Doctor Who overlaps in interesting and creative ways through it.
Yeah. You had a fun cameo in the Five-ish Doctors. Just kind of walk through.
Yeah, that was completely just at short notice. I happened to be just sort of. I can't remember what I was filming. I think I was filming my little bit in Matt's last episode.
Okay.
And so I just got ready. I was just nipping to the toilet just before I got into the full suit. And then Peter Davison saw me down the corridor and went, "Oh, Dan, have you got 5 minutes?" I went, "Yeah, probably."
Yeah.
"Okay, do you want to be in this?" So like, yeah. So it was literally kind of.
Oh, how interesting.
I just happened to be walking down the corridor and they went, "Oh, do you want to stand in the background?" Yeah, okay.
Okay.
But it was amazing how it snowballed from something that Peter constructed that was just going to be a sketch, and then it started. As soon as Peter Jackson said to Sylvester McCoy, "Yeah, do you want me and McKellen to be in this?" It's like, "Yeah, okay."
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah, why not? So I think it sort of grew, and then, yes, the BBC sort of went, "Okay, if you've got them in it, then fair enough, let's make it bigger."
It really was, it felt like a special part of the 50th anniversary. It was really nice. So, the Christmas special, you got to, you were still in makeup, but a little different, huh?
Yes, absolutely. After 7 years in a rubber suit, they let me have my own face as a little treat there.
Yeah.
And, yes, except some pointy ears, it was quite a nice relief, really. But it's the same difference as with Strax. He's got his blue battle suit and the butler suit. And the thing is, the butler suit is made of cloth. And I think there's a clue in the name as to why clothes are usually made of cloth. Because they're a lot easier to wear than a rubber suit. So it's kind of... having Ian, it was lovely, the elf costume, because... because it was completely designed around me as well. Having an actually tailor-made suit meant it fitted perfectly, so it was very nice.
Yeah.
And the shoes with the amazing sort of like curly toes and the bells on, they were just delightful as well. So so it's great fun. And also working with Nick Frost, who's an absolute dude. He's great.
Yeah, that was a wonderful... I mean, all the Christmas specials are great, but that was just had a little bit of magic to it, and it was kind of cool to see you there and do. Yeah. Any fun stories to share from that, or anything you want to...
There was one bit where... I think when Santa Claus produces the dream crabs for the first time, Nick Frost, just to try and sort of like get a rise out of everyone, was like, "These are the Contrafari." So I was like doing it so I can kind of rasped away, and then it's like Peter just collapsed.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't do that scene again for about 20 minutes. Every time I was like, "So these are the Contrafari." So there's lots of outtakes of everyone just like corpsing left, right, and centre.
That's
so
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yes.
I have been told in the past that good interviewers come up with new questions. Great interviews steal from someone else. So in that spirit, Kevin Pollak does a chat show, and he does a Tweet 5 where it's this or that.
Yeah.
So I've got 5 questions for you. You pick which one.
Right.
There are no wrong answers.
Okay,
So
right, okay.
fish or chips or curry?
Curry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vasta or Ginny?
It's an invidious choice. I'll say Vastra because we're both in rubber.
Okay. Wizard or alien?
Oh, I'm with the Wizards crew.
All right,
Yes.
very nice.
Yeah.
James Bond or Sherlock Holmes?
Ooh. Oh, that's tricky. Probably Sherlock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Being in the Big Finish or being in the regular episodes?
Oh God. No, I'm not going to answer that one because that'll clear
Okay,
my
very
pitch
nice.
tonight.
Thank you very much. All right, who do we have questions? Let's start here.
Okay, so here is sort of the comic thing. Which, if you had a chance to do a superhero or a supervillain, which would you choose?
So the question is, if Dan had the chance to do a superhero or a supervillain, what would he do?
Oh.
For those in the back.
Wow. Wasn't there one called the Mad Thinker? I think I quite like the idea of this bloke who just thinks in a mad way. Yeah. he's in The Incredible Hulk, isn't he? So, I think so. Yeah.
I could see that. That would
Yes.
work.
I think, or Dr. Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange, isn't he? But yeah, that's those ones I can remember. But yeah, I suppose. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Villain?
Yeah, general. Yes.
Okay.
I'll be Galactus. So if anyone annoyed me, I'll just go. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be a great role to
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Would you rather wear wool for a whole day, or would you rather wear the suit for Sartara?
So, the question is wearing wool all day or the Satoran costume?
Well, the thing is, when we were filming The Snowmen, the Christmas special from a couple of years ago, I was in the butler suit, and we were filming it in July, and if you can imagine, we had loads of fake snow on the ground, and also fake snow machines, but we're inside the studio with like hot lights, and it was also, sort of 27 degrees outside, so it was kind of like Celsius, that is, not Fahrenheit. And it was very hot. And I was in my Sontaran outfit, so it's got a fake chest, then a butler suit over the top of that, Strax's head, and then a cloak on top of the butler suit. So I've already worn both wool and rubber, and tried not to get heat stroke. But there were a couple of bits, but, they've usually, there's someone standing there with a big fan over me just to make sure that I don't completely overheat. But it's I've done that. It's it's fun.
Yes. There in the back. Stand up and say. Yeah. No, you're
Yeah,
good.
go on.
That's fine. We're going to get to everyone, so go ahead. Okay.
So I've always wanted to know, when you wear the heavy prosthetics, what happens if your nose itches?
So the question is, in case you didn't hear, what if the nose itches when he's in full makeup?
It frequently does, but then I remind myself that my ear hurts, or or the back of my neck is sweaty, or it's a game of distraction, or I really need to go to the loo, or something like that. So it's that sort of thing. It's just keeping your sort of mind on other things, or breathing, just breathe exercises. But I've become because I get up very early to do it. I've become very adept at having a little nap during the course of the day. So lots of the time I can just... Also, because the actual head is very big, it's almost like having a pillow around your head. So my hearing it's not completely gone, but it's muffled. So as soon as you've got that gone, it suddenly sort of like takes you away from the world slightly. So I can actually sort of just sit... And then I'm back again, it's fine. But I've learned how to do that as a kind of instantaneous thing. I was having a kip on set when we were doing Deep Breath. And then I woke up, I was in Strax's collar, and I sort of and I woke up, and then I saw on the front of my collar someone had put there a boiled sweet, a piece of hard candy that they'd been passing around the set. And they'd seen that I was asleep, so just leave it for him there.
Thank
I
woke up with a little treat.
Ta.
So does the makeup help you get in the character? Because it seems like you can, it seems like you get in pretty easy. But
certainly the first time when I tried it on, it was just extraordinary seeing this other face in the mirror. And it's a really odd feeling. I mean, the first time I put it on, it was put on, I thought, I look like an obese version of Steven Seagal. There was something about the shape of the nose and the slightly kind of like, the eyes looking a bit too close together because the head's slightly sort of broader. But it was that really odd sort of feeling. And also the other program that I do, Wizards vs. Aliens, because that's where I play this hobgoblin called Randall Moon, and his face is kind of a more flesh tone kind of colour. And so the first time I tried that on, it was kind of like another sort of like much more sort of plain, fleshy face. And then they started painting it in. And so like putting in all these capillaries and stuff and making it... And it was amazing how it sort of blossomed into life in front of my eyes. This sort of thing going, God, this is, it's amazing when it sort of first happens. And you sort of feel this sort of thing sort of coming up on you. I'm used to it now. And usually with Strax especially, because it's a two-piece application where there's the big sort of like round bit that is the head. And that goes on, that takes 3 people to sort of like wedge it out and stick it over my head and then that's in there. And then my face is poking out of that, so they have a mask which is much thinner, which they glue on and then blend into it. Once the mask is on, then most of the process is actually sort of blending it together and painting it up. And I can just sleep through that. So what happens is I'm there, it's about 5 o'clock in the morning when it happens, and then it'll take another about 2 hours to sort of blend it. And then so I'll just doze off on the chair, and then I wake up and there's Strax in the mirror, and then that's kind of, it's this weird kind of subconscious thing.
Yes.
I am he. I am here. So it's kind of a... And then I forget that I've got it on, and I especially I haven't met someone for the first time. I go, hello, I'm Dan. And I go, oh.
How long does it take to take off?
It can take up to an hour. It depends. Sometimes there's lots of different factors, depending on... If I've been jumping around a lot, then I might have been perspiring a bit, so it comes off more easily.
Yeah.
But there's lots of other things, like the weather, or where we're filming, or just sometimes the rubber has come out of the mould in a slightly different consistency. So there's lots of different things, because the prosthetics guys are very, very good at their job, and lots of it is not just to make the prosthetic look good, but also to make sure that my skin is actually going to survive it as well. Because if I'm doing 5 consecutive days... If I was, if I had it put on and taken off very badly, then you wouldn't be able to do it because it'll be agony. But they're very good at sort of like making sure that you've got, moisturising enough. I never used to moisturise before I did prosthetics, and then so I go, oh yes, I can see the value of it now. Yeah.
Would that be your advice to someone who's going to do heavy prosthetics? Is moisturize?
There's lots of things, not just before you have it put on because it'll just fall off your face, which is not gonna. But there's lots of things which I'm quite a control freak with it. But
okay.
There's lots of things I wouldn't have a drink. I wouldn't drink alcohol the night before, just because you're going to get dehydrated in the next day. Also, make sure I have a pretty light meal the next day. Lots of things. I avoid caffeine when I'm in the mask or. There's lots of things which I do just to help myself get through the day, because it can be a long day, because it's a fun day, but it can be up to about 15 hours or so in between sitting down in the chair in the first thing and actually getting it taken off. Mm-hmm. So that is physically draining inevitably, and the people who run the set are always very respectful of actually sort of knowing Dan is in prosthetics, so we need to. Not keep him hanging around if we can possibly help it. But inevitably, you've got to help yourself within that process as well. And also help the guys who are trying to make the makeup good as well. Because if I go on screen and Strax's face is half hanging off, then that reflects badly on their job as well as, I get annoyed at how Strax isn't looking how he should do. So we're all part of a team, and it's all got to sort of pull together.
Because... I think anyone that's, made a presentation or done even, high school or college acting or just, anything, it's very physically tiring, that emotion being on front of something. So not only do you have the acting, but you have the actual physical. So I can see how it would be a very long day.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, in the back, all the way.
What's the favorite line you've ever said? And what's the favorite line that's been said to you?
So the question is, what's his favorite line he said? And what is the favorite line that's been said to his character?
Oh, I've had quite a lot of good lines, so it's difficult. It's difficult. Every episode there's something where I go, yeah, that's good. But I think the first time when I thought, this character will be memorable, is when I had, I can produce magnificent quantities of lactic fluid.
Yeah.
It only takes Strax to get macho about lactation. It's kind of,
yes.
Yeah. And I suppose, sort of, Dr. 11's like going, I'm the clever one, you're the potato one. And sort of, But it's difficult to say because, as I say, I'm very well served by the script writing. So yeah, it's always good.
Very nice. Good. The TARDIS in the back.
Hello.
You've had some great episodes. Is there an episode that you feel like your characters would have added some pizzazz to that you would want to be a part of?
Ooh.
So is there an episode that you would have liked to have been part of?
Oh, gosh. Actually, if I could have gone back to the classic series, then the Talons of Weng Chiang, that would have been very cool.
Yes.
To have Strax meeting Jago and Lightfoot, that would have been good.
Yeah,
But,
that would have been very cool.
But yeah, that would have been cool. But I suppose in the current series, ooh, I don't know. It'll be a different episode, wouldn't it? But something like I love the Doctor's Wife. That was a great episode.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
You so you've worked with 2 doctors, right?
3.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's right.
On
3.
screen, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
okay, good.
But I didn't do that much with David Tennant, with Dr. Tennant. Because,
Right.
I didn't have any scenes with him in the Sontaran Stratagem. And in his final episode, I had a cameo where he knocked me out with a mallet. So
Right.
that was the only interaction I really had with him. Is I was going, falling over.
But that's something.
yeah. Yes, but David's a very nice man. So
Okay,
yeah.
very nice.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Right here. So the question is the difference between working on Wizards and Aliens versus Doctor Who.
Well, it's the same prosthetic room. It's a studio next to it down in Cardiff. So that's one thing. It's one door down. It's a difference in terms of. It's brilliant being part of Doctor Who because it's as I say, it was my favourite programme when I was a kid. But there's something, and it's great. But the Sontarans were already established before I started playing them, so I could go away and do my research. Whereas with Wizards, I've been able to create my character from scratch. So I'm the first person to play that character. So it's great actually sort of, making, because I play in this for the benefit of you, most of you who won't have seen it, I play a hobgoblin called Randall Moan, who will be talking like this. And he's got a big nose and big ears and stuff. And so I'm the only person who's played him. So it's lovely in that respect. Also, one thing I should mention whilst I'm here as well is that Wizards vs. Aliens is going to be available on Netflix, all 3 series of it, from next month.
Oh,
So,
nice.
Yes, so you've watched that? Yeah. And it's very much cut from the same cloth of the Sarah Jane Adventures because it's the same production team and it's kind of like it's the same kind of age group it's aimed at. So, yeah, and it's not the Doctor Who universe, but it's kind of like it's a universe where magic happens as well as science fiction things do. So yeah, it's different being a regular on it because Strax is recurring, but he's not completely irregular. And also with Wizards, I have my own domain. I have the Chamber of Mysteries, which is this great subset which has got a big sort of like cauldron in it and so like magic books and that sort of thing, and that's mine.
Okay.
So yeah, it's great. That was a standing set in Studio 2 for it's kind of Studio 1 or Studio 2 for ages, and so I got quite proprietorial. We were filming Doctor Who, so like going, yeah, that's my cave. Yeah, this is actually mine. So I would welcome people onto the set of my other show when I was on there. So yeah, had quite a lot of ownership over that sort of thing. But yeah.
Very nice. Who else? Yes, ma'am.
Who has the longest time in the makeup chair? You or
So the question is, who has the longest time in the makeup chair? Him or his cohort, Lady Vastra?
Well, it depends. Just because I think our makeups take similar amounts of time, but Neve's is a very different structure, so it's got more pieces to it. But when Neve has got to have the scaly green hands put on, that's another sort of like an hour, half an hour on top of having the head done. So she sometimes wins, but equally most of the time she's wearing clothes made of cloth. So with the difference in between when I'm wearing the butler suit, it takes about 20 minutes, half an hour less time to get into than if it's the blue battle suit. Just because I've got the blue rubber trousers that I have to be hoisted into by 2 people. They get filled with talcum powder. I'm wearing nice shiny girls' dance tights. And then I get hoisted into them by 2 people and it's like gets hoiked up. And when they're on, they're on. And then I make sure that I haven't drunk too much water. So it's kind of but it's it's all quite snug. But yeah.
See, I'm seeing an issue with all the makeup and prosthetics incredibly hot, but you have to limit the amount of moisture you're drinking because
it's a balance in between the two. Yeah,
I bet it is.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
We thank you for your service. You got a follow up.
I do have one more question. Knowing the Centaurus as you do,
Yeah.
when you went to audition, did they have an idea of what Strax was going to look like, the new
So the question is, with his background.
Do they tell you to give you an idea of how they play?
So the question is that with his background and love of Doctor Who, when he was going to do a Centauran in Strax, what kind of feedback did they give him?
Well, because first of all, I didn't audition for Strax because already then I'd played 2 Sontarans in previous episodes. So basically, the rubber suits they had only fits me. So it's a
Job
lot cheaper
security.
getting me back than it is making a completely new suit for somebody else. So, but the first episode when I auditioned for it, well, I went up to my mum and dad's attic, and I got my old VHS of the Time Warrior, the very first Sontaran story, and then I did my research. But so I knew exactly what the Sontarans were like, and I think that was it. My agent was saying, "Okay, I've got an audition for you, darling. It's for Doctor Who, and it's an alien in Doctor Who." And it's like, "Oh, that sounds great. What's he called?" He's called Score. And I went, "Oh, is it a Sontaran?" And I went, "I don't know, darling." I sort of gave myself away there slightly.
Yes.
But yeah, I could tell that just. Because I had an earlier draft of the script on the Sontaran stratagem than the one that was eventually broadcast. So I could tell the characters were less defined in terms of what Score and Stull were like. So much more generic Sontaran. So I could see, okay, this is pretty faithful to what had happened in the previous series. And they didn't redesign them that much, apart from making them considerably more buff. Unless,
right.
in the old series, they're kind of just a bit fat. And in the modern series, they've got pecs and everything like that. So, they've been down the gym a lot more.
So what's the biggest difference, Strax, from another Centaurian to you when you're playing him?
Strax, I think it's the fact that he's the ally of, albeit a grudging ally sometimes, of non-Sontaran characters. Because usually when you see Sontarans, they're very unpleasant, they're very chauvinistic, and they, in both senses of the word, but they're just sort of like out and out, sort of like aggressive villains. Whereas Strax, I think he's become more. The fact that he's part of the household. I think being a Sontaran, he likes things with rank and hierarchy. So I think he likes the rank of butler. I think it's how he understands butlers being, I hold the rank of butler inside this household. And he respects the sort of chain of command, and that Vastra is in charge and that sort of thing.
Do you think he likes being part of that family?
He would never admit it, but yes, it's interesting, there was one, because I think not everyone's seen it, but there was a little Easter egg that we recorded for one of the DVD releases. I think it might have been specifically an American DVD release called Demons Run 2 Days Later, which shows Strax being invited to Victorian London by Vastra and Jenny, which is 2 days after he seemingly had died in battle.
Right.
And there's quite a nice little bit in that about how, no, come to Victorian London with us. It'll be really exciting. We'll have adventures and fight crime. And he's like, I thank you for your offer, but I cannot accept, as you are putrescent alien filth.
Yeah.
But then eventually he sort of goes, all right then, scum.
Yeah.
So it's that whole thing. His pride would never let him admit it, but he kind of, I think he does actually, because he's been on his own for a long time. So yeah, I think Sontarans are definitely pack animals.
I think so too.
Yes.
I resigned. In the back there, yes.
Who's personally your favorite Doctor?
So your favorite Doctor?
That's a tricky question because I've worked with almost all the living ones. So it depends what mood I'm in, really. I think that's all I can say. Obviously, working with Tom Baker is amazing because he's kind of like he's an extraordinary man. And so you sit there in the room with Tom Baker and you hear all this mellifluous tones going across and the sound of, and all these stories about, I was walking down Wardour Street with Francis Bacon. And it's like, so he makes all these like streets in London sound amazingly kind of romantic. And now Wardour Street has got a Starbucks on it, and it's like any other street in London. It's like Wardour Street. It's when Bohemia still happened and stuff like that. So he's an amazing view into the past in that way. But no, all of them have got different flavours and are all fab. But
And I think that's an interesting thought. The beauty of Doctor Who is depending on your mood. Each Doctor can strike a different tone. We just recently rewatched Eccleston's, first episode, Rose, and I was struck how much I enjoyed it, and I understood then why some people think of him as their Doctor, because he really did kind of set the stage to bring this back. So
absolutely, and it's also because when it was sort of. when it was mooted, bringing it back in Britain as well, when it was announced, I think it was just lots of the media was all about how this is just ridiculous. Why are they reviving that? Sort of creaky old programme, whatever. And then having an actor of Christopher Eccleston's calibre sort of come on board, who's known for very sort of like gritty and some social realist drama, and sort of having him on board was kind of like, oh, actually, this is going to be something where they're taking it seriously. So in some ways, it was quite a gamble for the BBC bringing it back because, again, Russell was amazingly perspicacious in how he did it, but sort of. I think the people at the BBC were going, no, there's no audience for drama on Saturday nights. There's no audience for science fiction. No one will watch this. No one will concentrate. What you want is rubbish game shows and all that sort of thing. That's Saturday night. And then Russell went, no, I'm going to bring Doctor Who back. It's going to be on Saturday night and people are going to watch it. And I went, OK, you've just written it. I think it was very grudging about how, even with Russell's clout, they sort of like, well, no, this is a bit of a gamble. But then it absolutely sort of took off. And it was so well judged about how they deployed, because they didn't overwhelm the audience with continuity from the previous. You didn't have to be aware of the previous 40 years odd of continuity or whatever, because they introduced elements of the old show in a very kind of intelligent way. So it wasn't just so it took the audience with it, and it grew with it. And so I remember sort of watching all those episodes, like the first time, it's not even until The Runaway Bride, when the 10th Doctor talks about, I'm from Gallifrey. It's the first time you hear the word Gallifrey used in the new series. And I remember hearing my, feeling that sort of like heartbeat going, yeah, because they introduce these things in a very intelligent way that brings the audience with it. So
and I really love how it's done that. I find it amazing that I'm from Dallas, and so I'm driving in my car, and in the back of my car I have an E Street Band, Bruce Springsteen bumper sticker, and I have a TARDIS, and I will see other people with TARDIS bumper stickers, and you go, that is so cool that it is that mainstream now.
It's extraordinary, yeah. I mean, it's only realising in retrospect that when I was a kid in the 80s, first of all, I tried to get Doctor Who magazine every month, but lots of newsagents didn't stock it. You just couldn't find it, so I kept on missing issues. But all the kind of... It's so interesting, because now you've got BBC Worldwide, who are very on the whole kind of brand, and so it's all sort of it's all quite controlled, and there's very specific things you can do.
Right.
All the kind of Doctor Who animals I got when I was a kid. There's amazing ones from the 70s where clearly the artist had one picture of Tom Baker and then the rest of them had no idea what Sarah Jane Smith looked like or whatever.
Right.
So Harry Sullivan's got a moustache in several of them. So all the sort of spin-off media, there was no kind of control over what. Right. So yeah, it's amazing. Even the BBC didn't know what they were doing with it, but now it's kind of it's everywhere, and yeah, it's incredible. And I think I was only aware of it when I was in Chicago a couple of years ago. I'm doing, Chicago TARDIS. I'm thinking, Doctor Who seems to be pretty big. But then I happened to go out. I was just shopping on one of the days off, and I was in some big department store, and just near the checkout they had sonic screwdrivers. So I'm thinking, this isn't actually even a Doctor Who convention. It's just a normal shop.
Yes.
And they've got sonic screwdrivers in America. We're through the looking glass. It's kind of
it is amazing, and that. And it's thrilling, for us, whether we're classic fans or new fans, it's just amazing. So that's good. Yes, ma'am.
If the Doctor regenerated into a woman, how would Strax react?
Okay, so if the Doctor regenerated to a woman, we want to know how Strax would react. My first thought is, would he notice?
I think therein lies the actual thing. Yeah. It's like, what's this on your head? Why has it become longer? Hair? No. Yeah, I think, yes. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you are definitely a woman one? Yeah, so I think, yes, I think it would go over his head again. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's nice. Yes?
So, I think that's a very cool idea.
Yeah.
Because the Sontaran's arch enemy are the Rootans, with whom they've been fighting a war for over 500,000 years. And so, suspect because they both like fighting too much. But obviously, we've seen the Rootans once on screen in the classic series, in the Horror of Fang Rock. And that's pretty well realised for something made in 1976. But I think now you could do it really well, because they're kind of sort of blobby, amoeba-like, shape-shifting creatures. You could go really Lovecraft with it, actually, thinking about it. So all tentacles and horrible stuff. So no, it would be great to actually. I think you could realise it very well now. So there was actually a Doctor Who computer game which you could download off the BBC website a couple of years ago, that Phil Ford wrote, who wrote The Waters of Mars and also writes Wizards vs. Aliens. And they had the Rutons in that, and they were very sort of nicely realised as being kind of like floating jellyfish type things. But I think, yeah, Strax versus the Rutons in Victorian London. Yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah,
I could see
in favor of that, yes.
And I think you could make it, I think especially now, you could make a very gothic episode with some shape-shifting and... Yeah, so yeah, I think definitely that should be an option.
Yeah, I'd watch it. Maybe Big Finish audio, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yes, ma'am.
If Strax was left alone and he was in the TARDIS, do you think he would ever put on the Doctor's suit?
Okay, so if Strax was alone in the TARDIS, and would he put on the Doctor's suit, and which Doctor's suit?
Yes. I cannot see the tactical value of the Doctor's armour in this way. First of all, it's too voluminous for me. But, yes, these bow ties are apparently meant to be cool. I see no tactical use in them whatsoever. Yeah, I think perhaps he would use the scarf as kind of like a grappling hook or something. But
yes.
Or the celery is potentially, is it a weapon? Can I use it to poison someone? No. I think clothes, again, like lots of things, pass him by slightly.
Very nice. He does look great in the butler's outfit, though.
Yeah, I really like that butler suit.
Yeah, well...
Much more than the blue one.
I bet. Absolutely. All the way in the back.
Building on that last question, if Strax was by himself in the TARDIS, if he had all of time and space to choose one destination, where do you think he would go?
I would go back to last Thursday and do all the ironing before. Because then I have more time to play with my grenades later in the week. Yeah. I think he has rather a sort of like two-dimensional idea about tasks, sort of project management. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yes.
Okay, so Strax has a very warped view on gender. How exactly does he interpret things? How does it go through his head?
So the question is, I'm sorry, Strax has a warped sense of gender. So she wanted to talk a little bit about that.
Well, I think Strax comes from, first of all, the Sontarans are a clone race, so they don't reproduce in the way that human beings do, and there aren't any female Sontarans. So I think, basically, if you come from a race where there is no conception of gender or sexuality, apart from, by default, they're masculine, I think that's the kind of way which you've got to understand it. They're kind of like, well, first of all, humans as well all look the same anyway. So it's kind of, but some of them are a bit more misshapen than others. All humans have got this stuff on their head. And that doesn't seem to sort of like play any sort of part in things. So I think he's just aware of some of them have got sort of like bumps in different places, but that's I think that's it. And he can't quite see what they're for or what the tactical advantages of actually having sort of different parts of the body being armoured in that way.
Yeah, I love that he calls Jenny boy.
Yes.
And yeah, just
this weak and fleshy boy.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Wonderful. Another question. Here, and then we'll go to you.
So, I know that you look like a big potato, but do you ever feel like you're being baked?
So the question is, not only does he look like a big potato, but does he feel like it ever?
Yes, and roasted, and lots of other things as well.
Yeah.
Yes, and steamed quite often as well too. That's definitely a part of it.
Is it? I imagine. I'm just thinking of myself when I'm, I have to wear a suit or a tie, and when you get home and you throw in the gym trunks and T-shirt, I guess at the end of the day, it must just feel glorious.
The best part of the day, obviously I love filming, but the best part of the day is having the head taken off and having my hearing taken back. I'm kind of on an adrenaline high when that happens. Like, I can hear again, and I can feel the breeze on my head. Yeah, it's extraordinary, and it's weird. Even though by the end of the day I'm usually very tired, I get this weird kind of like rush when the head comes off, and it's like, and I'm sorry, bang awake again for about half an hour, and then I just have a... It's a bit like jet lag, it's that kind of feeling.
So, Doctor Who was originally a children's show. She's curious about the fan base. What kind of, your fans, what do you get the feeling?
I think it's a show that definitely appeals to lots of different ages as well. I think even though it was always conceived as a children's programme, it was never actually made by the children's department of the BBC. It was always made by the drama department. And also it went out at a time when families would be watching together. So there's enough sort of like ideas in it to sort of interest an adult audience as well as an audience of children, despite the fact there's not explicit kind of, if it were designed to be on at 11 o'clock at night or whatever, then it would probably have a very different tone of, how far you can go with the violence and so like certain other ideas or whatever. But no, I think it does a good job of having quite a broad appeal, because I think children can watch it and get excited about the adventure of it. Although, recent series, there have been quite a lot of quite scary moments, but hopefully not so much they would actually traumatise a child. But there's enough to actually, especially with Stephen's writing, with his timey-wimey and his kind of like Rubik's Cube brain of actually sort of constructing plots which are very intricate, that's something that rewards repeat viewing and also people who are willing to pay attention to quite an intricate plot line over the course of a series. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, Dan, how about you? When you get fans that come visit, do you see any trends? Do you get more younger fans, older fans? Anything?
I suppose lots of kids like Strax. I suppose because Strax, he has got that almost like little brother kind of quality. So I think they recognise in him this slightly kind of like he's put upon, he's slightly sort of within the Paternoster gang kind of demographic dynamic as well. But equally, we did a competition for the first for Deep Breath, the first Peter Capaldi episode, where there's a very long-running children's programme the BBC makes called Blue Peter, which is like a children's magazine programme. They launched a competition to have children design a sonic device for each of the Paternoster gang. And apparently, most of the actual entries for that, by far, were for Jenny. So you can sort of see how, for the kids, then Jenny is kind of like the eyes of the audience a lot more within the Paternosters. So,
right.
So it's interesting. It goes one or two ways. But I have lots of older people sort of coming up to me all sort of... Yeah, I think it's difficult to generalise, really.
Okay, very nice. Yes, sir.
Amazing vocal talents. Have you ever tried to imitate all the doctors?
All of the Doctor. Actually, I did an audio book. I did a book called Silhouette last year, and that was funny actually as well, because it was the 12th Doctor and Clara, and bearing in mind I had recorded Deep Breath in January, and I was recording this audio book in August just before the episode Deep Breath was actually broadcast. So I hadn't actually heard what either of them were doing vocally for about 6 months or so, or 7 months. I was thinking, okay, I've got to impersonate, as well as playing Vasta and Jenny as well. So, and there's one sequence in it where the Doctor goes back, and then there's a shape-shifting alien in it, who then impersonates all of his previous selves. So I had to impersonate all of the previous Doctors. I'll give a quality. So like so how of William Hartle's Doctor, oh dear boy, and then and then so obviously Tom Baker is quite distinctive, so you can sort of riff off him quite easily. And then so like John Pertwee is a little bit more sort of lispy and a bit more down like that, and Peter Davison is more tricky to do. Sylvester has got sort of that kind of great quality to him, and Colin. Yeah, no, there are ones that I can take off quite easily, and other ones where I have to think about it a lot more before I actually submit them. But yes.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you. That's great. Yes, sir. Oh, a very nice hockey jersey.
There we go.
I think How do we get a spin-off? We all want one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it has been noted that there is enthusiasm for it, but I think they're Stephen's characters, and I think he's quite proprietorial over them. I think he's quite sort of, he wouldn't want them to be used. He wouldn't want them to be written by someone who we didn't sort of think was good enough. But equally, I think he's kind of busy writing Doctor Who and Sherlock to actually sort of do that. And I think it's just simply sort of logistics, really.
Yeah, I mean, do you get the feeling if he had the extra time, he would love to explore the characters?
Possibly. I think. Okay. I think what he always says is that he wouldn't want to write episodes with the Paternoster for its own sake, but there would have to be a series of episodes that would be the stories that would justify their inclusion in them. So I think that's the kind of thing. But I think so. Yeah.
I would love a big finish, of them.
Oh,
that's
maybe,
maybe think, the one you got going on. Yes.
Can you guarantee the return of Strax to Doctor Who in season 9?
I can't guarantee it, no, because I don't make those kind of decisions. But no, my interest has been registered in actually sort of going, but I don't know about season 9 yet, because we always find out at quite short notice anyway. So it's kind of
And is that so? You don't get a lot of notice normally. It's like, hey, because it sounds like, based on what your thing is, it's the story first. He always serves that story.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it's the kind of thing, especially because over the course of a season, I think he'll have the architecture of it in his head. but then the specifics of it, he throws lots of balls in the air and juggles them. And then some of them that he'll catch might have your face on, other ones don't, you know, if there's a kind of gap. So something like The Name of the Doctor, you know, that was, you know, when we were in the sort of the climax of Series 7.
Yeah.
That was obviously, so that functionally, the Doctor has to be invested in going to Trenzalore because he's got to rescue his friends. So you can sort of see how the Paternosters, they were integral to be part of that.
Yeah.
But again, that was a very short notice because I think, as far as I knew, I was only going to be in one episode that season, but it ended up being 3. So, so yeah, again, with this current series, I've no idea what sort of the story arcs are going to be, but perhaps there might be something, or perhaps, you know, it might be a thing. Oh, Strax could do that, or it could have been, you know, sort of Kate Stewart or whatever. So yeah, it's all those sorts of things which you're not privy to.
All right. I know we're getting short on time. Anyone else? Yes. So the question is, what, if any, American TV shows you find enjoyable?
Well, I watched Star Trek when I was growing up. That was always repeated. That was always shown. It's like the classic series, and also The Next Generation. I used to watch when I was at school. Also Buffy. I love Buffy. That was great.
Yes. Yay.
Yes. And Angel as well. I sort of like enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Firefly. That was fabulous. Nice being called.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. That would have been cool to be in if it.
Yes, it would have been.
It lasted a bit longer.
Yes, that would have been.
But yeah, I think, oh gosh, I mean, I think there's so, it's amazing going to these conventions. There are so, you realise, like, oh yeah, I watch quite a bit of sci-fi. You know, there are so many series that I have absolutely sort of no knowledge of, or it depends if they're shown in Britain or not. But yeah, I'm sure there are ones that I'm missing as well. But yeah.
So Dan, I know you do a fair amount of conventions. Who's someone you've met that you know, outside of the original Doctors, where you've went, oh my goodness, oh my good, you know, the little fanboy in you is just going happy.
Ooh,
anyone
gosh.
Specific?
Actually, when we were filming the Crimson Horror, that had Diana Rigg in it from the Avengers. And
yeah,
and that was that. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was, I did have a slightly kind of like, that's Mrs. Peel sort of moment. And then I shot her with a ray gun. So
yeah.
But that's yeah, who else? I mean, so actually sort of having a chat with David Warner, because I worked with him before on the radio, on BBC Radio Plays, but he's done everything, and he's a fantastic actor. But,
okay.
And he's great, and he's good fun as well, because he's done everything, and he's a more mature gentleman. He feels no compunction to actually sort of, David, please tell me what it was like doing Time Bandits. I have no recollection of that whatsoever. It's great, but he's done everything, yes. So it's kind of yeah.
Very nice, sir.
Yes.
Good. Yes.
There's a question earlier about a spin-off. You're saying that it had to be the right writer,
Yeah.
And you mentioned Angel, Buffy, and Firefly. What do you think? Do you think Joss Whedon will be able to handle this spin-off?
I think that sounds like quite a cool combination. Yeah.
I tell you what, I'd sign up for it right now.
Yeah, Joss Whedon running Paternoster again. That would be quite fun. I can't see it happening in anytime so particularly soon, but yeah, in theory that would be yes.
But we should all think positive thoughts about Mr. Whedon doing in that. Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
So you've got 5 Centaurs in the room. You're playing all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe one of them strikes, maybe not. How would you play each Centauran differently because they're clones?
Well, there are vocal inflections that I sort of changed, like especially this happens quite a lot when I'm doing Big Finish audios as well. I have about sort of 2 or 3 different Centauran voices that I do for that, because often the times, because I've got different colour highlighters. And then there's a room of 5 Centauran, so it basically looks like a sort of like a sweet shop by the time I'm sort of like finished highlighting it. But so like the old series Centaurans have got a slightly different voice. So from the Time Warrior, they talk like this. They're slightly posher, but they're also a lot more hoarse. So they're just right on the catch of the throat. So it actually canes my vocal cords to actually do it for any amount of time. But some of them will be quite deep down there, and some of them will be slightly more hoarse like this. And then with Strax, with the Centaurs, they're all kind of baritone and quite gruff. So I'd probably sort of vary it in terms, I'd probably be pitch. And also just, the general demeanour and stuff. There's quite a specific template as to how they interact with each other, but I'd sort of probably make, deeper. And there's also rank as well. Some of them will shout at other ones more. Some of them will be a bit more submissive. So I'm sure, depending on how well it's written, then that will be the difference which I would find in terms of how to vary the tones. Okay. I mean, in the script that I wrote for Big Finish, I had this sort of delightful thing of, who wrote this rubbish? Oh, I wrote it. Yeah. So all the kind of like, oh, that's a long bit of dialogue. I really have no voice now. So yeah, I had nobody else but myself to blame for sort of how these things go. But yes.
Very nice. Yes, sir. Okay, so he's Centaurans, right?
Yeah, I think they're Sontarans, but I think that the Jejune are sort of like thugs for hire. And, they're quite bad-tempered, but it's like, they're just like, there's not much point in this. Just stomp off grumbling. Sometimes, but we're fighting! Why can't we keep on fighting? It's fun! And that sort of thing. So I think the Sontarans would have more kind of, more excitement to it, but I think, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I understand you went to NASA. That was pretty cool?
Yes, that was cool, yes.
Very nice.
Went there the day before the convention started. And,
Very cool.
Yes.
Well, we are thrilled you're here at Comic Palooza. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone stop by his booth. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.